love is a sacrifice. I can't fit in anger anymore. I can't fit in resentment anymore. I can't fit in those ugly characteristics, those ugly temperaments, those malnourished, decrepit, diseased states of mind. I don't fit there anymore. If that little spark, if that little flame, if that little idea, if that little egg fertilized can grow and be birthed and be strong enough to withstand the blasts, to withstand the shell shock, to withstand the screams, to withstand the grief, to endure and let that weakness peel off and die off like layers of an onion, it might start at the core, because yeah, you got me deep, you touched my core. That was a sensitive spot. You hit a nerve, you struck a nerve there. But the more I grow, the more I develop, the more I mature, this light that's inside of me, this divinity, this hope, this grace, this mercy I've been shown, it's stretching out that weakness beyond its capacity, and that weakness is tearing.
About a year ago, I had this dream that I'll never forget. In it, I woke up, I think on my old college campus, meshed with some type of center or retreat or campus, so to speak. And as I'm walking through the library, looking over the Pacific Ocean, I could see Santa Monica and Palos Verdes and Catalina. But all of a sudden, there's like an earthquake and a big explosion off the distance, off in the coastline. And the impact of such is gaining so much momentum that it's rapidly approaching. And in the dream, I died. And I woke up, and I was there again. And while sitting in the library, studying, walking around, trying to figure out what had just happened, this big black guy with chains, he comes in, and he looks right at me and starts coming for me. And at that point, I start to run. He captures me. He wraps me up in these big chains, and he drags me outside, where I die again. I wake up again, and I'm walking on the other side of the library in a courtyard. But on my way out, or actually I was sitting on a couch, and I look over, and there is this baby or infant, kind of looks like Pinocchio, and he's got one blue eye, one green eye, and clearly malnourished. And I couldn't leave him behind. My heart just went out to him. So I put him on my shoulders, and I'm kind of looking to see if anyone's going to claim him. Now, one sense of relief is the fact that my dog, Irie, is there with me in the dream. Unfortunately, he became very irritated and envious of this little decrepit kid on my shoulders. And while walking through the courtyard, Irie attacks, he snaps, and I die in the process of trying to keep that little kid safe. I wake up again in the same dream. And it's one of those dreams where you can feel everything. It's like another universe. And I feel very present, very there. I encounter a young woman in a stairwell. She's about the only voice I can understand or make out. And I asked her, what was this place? What is this place? And she says, oh, you don't know? No, I shook my head. She's like, this is where people go when they're not grateful. And it dawned on me right then and there that I was in a purgatory. Thankfully, I awoke from that dream, and I realize that when I'm not grateful, I'm living in a purgatory. And maybe it was a warning. It definitely shook me up enough to where I realized that could be a preview of the afterlife, a purgatory we go to when we're ungrateful, resenting life, and not utilizing what we already have, not appreciating what's been given us. I am guilty of always compulsively taking notice of the lack, of the deficit, of what I think I should have. And I'm so grateful I've learned that should simply cannot be in my vocabulary. Because if I don't live in acceptance and accept things for what they are, accept people for who they are, how could I be grateful for them? Gratitude is founded upon acceptance. It's an understanding. It's a kindred spirit. What I experienced from that dream, that white light moment, which has been one of many, but they don't lose value as far as substance or content. I know it's of my higher power because of the timing. What I experienced is something called metanoia, Metanoia, for those of you taking notes. It's a noun, and it's originally Greek, late 19th century origin. Metanoia is a transformational change in one's way of life. It also means a change resulting from repentance and spiritual awareness. I gotta say, being sober and in early sobriety, once again, I know this dance. I'm familiar with it. The detox phases, and then the pink cloud, and then the bursting of the pink cloud. And just recently, for the past day or two, I've reached a point in the early sobriety, and it's always usually after a month, where I'm so grateful, like unabashedly grateful, like my heart, my core is sincerely in gratitude, and I can't help but weep. I can't help but cry. And it's one of those cries like white girl, senior year, last party of the summer before her and her girls just disband and go off to wherever they're going to college to pledge their sororities. It's that kind of drunk cry. Like after about 6 hours of playing beer pong with Natty Light and losing. It's that kind of cry, like the ugly cry. And all I can do is say thank you in every language I know how. Sincerely. And I appreciated in the Bible in front of the Lord's Prayer, because secular or not, like people recite the Lord's Prayer, Christian or not, in different contexts. And if you do that, you know what I'm talking about. But if you read prior to the Lord's Prayer, the actual poem itself, it has instructions. And it says you don't have to be too wordy in praying. So I usually try to get myself together quickly and roll into the Lord's Prayer or whatever. Just brief prayers I have memorized. And it's always good to have those in your Rolodex of your spiritual toolkit, your spiritual utility belt, because you never know when you're going to need a nice prayer, something solid and firm. No one can take away from you unless you lose your memory. But I think that'd be like divine intervention. But no, physicality. I suffered a mild traumatic brain injury when I got hit by that drunk driver last year. And my memory ain't so hot these days. And I'm grateful it's gotten a lot better. But the concussion I sustained, those first few months, sometimes I wonder if I started drinking because of the concussion or because of the chronic back and neck pain. But I don't think that, because I've been concussed a couple of times before that, because I was hit by a car as a pedestrian when I was 12 or 13, 2001. No, I was 12. I was like, dang, I would have been 11. But dude, going 35 miles per hour in a parking lot, and then hit my head when I broke my leg on PCH in Malibu, biking downhill to work. On zero sleep. It was like the day after finals. So, you got to celebrate after you finish finals. But every time I've ended up actually in the ER or prior to an ambulance arriving, there is this decision. Do I want to live? Do I want to live? I'm dying physically, but something in me starts to bubble up. And it's like, I don't want to go out like this, like not this soon. And drinking, abusing alcohol, abusing any drug, to the point where it brings you to your knees, socially, mentally, economically, career-wise, or getting an illness, getting sick, experiencing a traumatic event, losing someone close to you. These things provoke us. They awaken a fire in us, a light, a passion that is undeniable. And it's something truly ourselves. I don't know about you, but when I get in those zones, I'm willing to do any and everything to live. I am dying to live. And that's why I wanted to speak from, okay, Irie's getting his morning coffee, drinking his water. Brief hold. Okay, Irie is done drinking his water. So I like also one of the best advice I got from a mentor, executive producer, story editor in Hollywood. He was telling me, write from where you're at, because no one else has got what you've got. And that's invaluable information. So if you're listening to this, take that with you. And I hit my knees this morning, and I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude. I'm so grateful for the desperation to live. We need to talk about from where we're at. We're so busy chopping up last weekend and theorizing about next weekend that we sit up here and we miss this here very weekend. When I stopped fearing pain, fear ceased to exist. When I surrendered to acceptance, the immaturity of frustration was too small for me. I can't fit in anger anymore. I can't fit in resentment anymore. I can't fit in those ugly characteristics, those ugly temperaments, those malnourished, decrepit, diseased states of mind. I don't fit there anymore. I'm too big for that right now. I'm too grateful. God's been too good to me for me to walk that way, to walk in resentment, to walk in anger, to walk in frustration. And all that's fear. And now I'm so grateful. It's so relevant to me that faith works, that everything's going to be okay, that things are going to work out, that I resolve whatever is causing me that resentment, that fear. I'm able to let people go that simply don't want to be in my life. That's so big for me. That is so big for me. It hurts. Don't get me wrong. It still hurts, but that dying, it's igniting a counterbalance, it's counterforce. That darkness is also illuminating a light. The darker it gets, the brighter this light shining, that I am going to be surrounded by who I need to be surrounded by. My needs are met. I have so much, even in the little that I do have. And from researching this year and trying to feed myself spiritually and train and teach myself and grow myself, and thing that's apparent across the board from anyone that's truly got a relationship with God and has delved into the word of it, and whether that's through Buddhist context, Hindu, I'm so ready to get into some Ram Dass reading. My buddy tossed me a book. Shout out to Eric. So I'm going to hit that up soon. When I stopped fearing pain, fear ceased to exist. When I surrendered to acceptance, the immaturity of frustration was too small for me. After we've done all that we can do to stand firm, it says in Ephesians 6:14, and having done everything that the crisis demands, to stand firm in your place, fully prepared, immovable, victorious. I'm so grateful something on the outside, dying, woke up something on the inside that's been dying to live. My alcohol tolerance, my physical injuries, any type of proclivity I'm facing, it is actually a key. It's an ignition. It's a switch. It's a lever. It's access to potential of a stronger, fresher, more resilient self. Recognizing that opportunity can be daunting. Accepting it can be a challenge. But the time saved, the risk of actually just moving forward outweighs any backlash, any consequence of staying put, staying stagnant, and freezing. A great allude to The Affair on Showtime. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. It's October 27th, so if you haven't been caught up on The Affair, you might want to skip a minute, 30 seconds or two, because Helen and Noah, first of all, The Affair should get more hype than Game of Thrones, if y'all are asking me. Helen, played by Mara Tierney, is phenomenal, that character. She's the original wife to the author-writer, and they're in Los Angeles, and there's wildfires, and they have to scale a mountain and descend a cliff face. And Noah tells Helen, you can't just freeze. Moving is life. You gotta move. If you stay still, you die. And it was so poignant, and it was weird. I don't know what the end, if that's a certain fashion brand or something, but Helen's baseball cap that Noah gives her when she agrees to go on this journey with him, it says the end. And I thought she was going to die. And she's my favorite character. And Mara Tierney, that actor, she was my favorite character as playing Abby on ER. And it's weird because Abby, I saw live. I was diehard, me and my Grammy, watching ER. If we weren't watching it together, we would call each other on the commercial breaks. Dr. Carter, Dr. Green, look, Eric LaSalle, y'all. But that character, Abby, played by Tierney, becomes alcoholic. And even as a kid, I related to her. And I hadn't drank. I hadn't abused alcohol then. But I'll never forget having such a connection to that character. And I thinking her portrayal was so authentic. And it was. I mean, she's acclaimed for that depiction of that Abby, that alcoholic Abby. So I was just, last night I got emotional. I've just been feeling emotional these last few days. And that's what happens when you take a break from drinking and drugging and partying. And spiritually, kind of like a spiritual detox, a mental cleanse, a knowledge cleanse. It's cool. It's inspiring. And it's revelatory because it's showing me, it's communicating to me, my subconscious, that something in me has died. And crying is not a weakness, it's a strength. And something in me, something outside of me, whatever had to die that I'd be so desperate to live, I'm grateful for. When I was living in Italy, we would have these Wednesday and Friday night chapels, because the school I went to, you had to go to chapel once a week, and it counted towards your GPA. It was a lecture you had to attend. But we also got to rotate who led these chapels, these lectures. And I was pretty much head over heels for an Italian guy. And I picked up on hate. People were hating from their religious standpoints, from their societal, economic. I wasn't rich. People knew that. I was gregarious, and that got me out and about and invested with the Italian community. And people envied that. And then I just noticed people picking fights. I mean, when you live with 60 people all together in one place for a while, it's going to happen. So I understand that. But it just got to the point where I decided to deliver a message called Stop Hating. And that'll be another podcast episode in itself. But I want to reference this because it's all going to come full circle. So there's a story in the Bible in 1 Samuel. A man named Elkanah had two wives, Hannah and Penninah. Penninah bore his fruits, his children, but Hannah was barren. And it says in 1 Samuel that Penninah would tease Hannah. She would provoke her every year when they would make their, homage, their journey, their pilgrimage to the temple. Penninah would rub it in Hannah's face that she did not have children for Elkanah. So Hannah got desperate enough. She started praying like she was drunk, and the priest asked her, why do you keep getting so wasted and coming to church, yo? And she's like, I haven't had wine or beer, homie. I'm praying from my heart. And she promised God that if he gave her a child, she'd give it back to him. And she did just that, and hence Samuel was born. When I was in high school, my senior year, one of my aunts was pregnant and with child. And by then I was pretty invested at the church I was going to, and I was in the nursery probably a couple of years before that. So in the middle of high school, changing my little cousin, my sophomore year it would have been, because he was born my freshman year. And this beautiful young lady was in the nursery, light caramel skin, just looking like a sexy frappuccino, and she was changing her little brother's diaper or whatever. And she was like, "Oh, is that your son?" And I was like, no. I was like, "Is that your son?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh." And I realized that she was my age and with child. And not only did she have the one son that she was changing in the nursery, she also had an even younger son. And I could see why. I mean, she was gorgeous. She took my breath away, and had a big crush on her, but I wanted to get to know her. I wanted the best for her from the jump. I felt like she was somebody that deserved to be treated well. Well, by my senior year, around the time one of my aunts was 6 months pregnant, I had gone to Hollister at the mall to pick up my $77 check. And while I'm leaving Hollister, I'm walking through the food court, and I see Wendy, that young girl. Well, the girl my age, not that young girl. And she's kind of talking to these thugs. These guys are clearly not up to any good. And she runs up to me and she just like gives me a big hug. She's like, "It's so nice to see you." Da, da, da. And I can tell she wants me to get her out of that situation. She does not want to be talking to that guy. So I'm like, why don't you, walk with me outside or whatever. So we're talking and I'm like, well, when's the last time you ate? I'm like, where are your kids at? All this stuff. And things just aren't going well. Her kids were put into foster care, taken away from her. And now she's scavenging for food, making ends meet by any means. So I told her I'd take her to where she needed to go. And while we're talking, I'm realizing her situation is a lot more desperate than mine. I'm driving her around in my parents' Land Rover, and she lost her 2 kids. She's my age. She's not in school. She's never been to homecoming. She never ran for class president. I have everything she doesn't. And my heart goes out to this beautiful young lady. So I decide to take her to Walmart. On the way to Walmart, I get the news that my youngest cousin at the time, in utero, had passed. It was no longer alive. The girl inside of my aunt. My aunt lived near the store. So either before or after. No, it was after. So we went to the store after seeing my aunt, and Wendy didn't come downstairs to the basement, and I just sat with my family, the few aunts that lived there, my grandmother. And with this woman that's with child, but the child in her is no longer breathing. The heart's not beating. The light has gone out. And even though the idea in our hearts and minds, and she's with us to this day, it's beautiful, actually, that to see our family come to peace with that and to know that we have an angel. It's more so a feeling. It's a heart thing. And then upstairs, the guest that I brought, she's fertile, she's young, she's beautiful, but she can't manage to keep her kids. The dichotomy was so apparent, and it reminds me of Hannah and Penninah. And it's not that Wendy even tried to provoke my aunt. It would have just been insensitive. It wouldn't have been the place, but just the idea. I realized I had to leave. We had to go. I didn't have time. And there was nothing as a young man. It was such a bigger situation than me I could really say. And sometimes people love you when they could just sit there in silence with you. But I hated seeing that on my aunt's face, to be bereaved like that. And I'll never forget that. The weight of the room was so much bigger than all of us. So I took Wendy to Walmart, and she needed to buy a phone, like a pay-and-go phone. But upon walking out, I kind of saw her looking, and I realized she needs more than this. So I was like, do you need, like, girl stuff? And she's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. So we grabbed a basket, and we walked around the store, and I kind of turned my back when, she went down the feminine products aisle and stuff like that. And I ended up spending my whole $70 check on her. And I was okay with that. I am okay with that. And even though she might have played me, who knows? But that's not for me to judge. She gave me the opportunity to be of service. Whether that opportunity was authentic or not, I did it. So the dichotomy, the juxtaposition of you having some of what I don't have, we can stand and resent and separate ourselves and hate, or we can step forward and we can meet each other's need. Because the thing about diversity, the thing about being a pluralistic society is that we all need each other. That light in you needs the light in me. That color in you needs the color in me. That idea in you needs the implementation of me, the implementation. We need that teamwork, that correspondence. I can only go alone so far. I wouldn't have this skill set, be able to produce this show if it wasn't for somebody meeting a need I didn't even know my purpose, my destiny had, in teaching me, helping me, showing me how to produce, how to do audio engineering, how to put together a show, how to believe in myself, how to recognize my own talent. It took someone else. It took an external provocation to bring that out of me, for me to get desperate enough to actually cry out and say, higher power, life, fill this wound. Because I got to tell you, as a queer male, as a LGBTQ guy, gay, bisexual, whatever you want to call it, someone that's not just pure straight, I get provoked by couples. It's so easy to get provoked by what heterosexuals seem to have as far as culture and context and societal normalcy. When, as a male, I'm kind of left to these little dating apps that are just sex Russian roulette. I mean, and you try to date someone and they're hard to find. It's few and hard to come by because these days people know what they want. And I think that chivalry, if we don't fight for it, might be dying. Chivalry's dying to live. Romance is dying to live. Passion is dying to live. Actual, authentic, genuine connection is dying to live. Love at first sight is dying to live. I am dying to live, and that more abundantly. That's why I'm at where I'm at, and that's why I can share this. That's why I don't toss and turn at night after I release the show, because I don't care what y'all think. I care about what I think. And if I think I helped someone today, if I think I laid it all out when my head hits the pillow at night, then I've met that need. I've met that dying need inside of me. Everyone can rest easy, the dying and the living. And we start the process over again. I say accept it for what it is. And like MLK said, respond with love. That quote, you cannot fight hate with hate. You cannot drive out hate with hate. You cannot drive out darkness with darkness. Only light can do that. Only love can drive out hate. It's almost the same way backwards as it is forwards. There's a palindrome in that idea. Only hate can drive out love. Only shame can drive out love. Only darkness can consume light. A palindrome is a word like radar that's spelt or pronounced the same way backwards as it is spelt forward. Hannah is a name that's a palindrome. It's spelt the same way forward as it is backward. The name Hannah means grace. Grace is a tricky word to define. There's really nothing like it. It's like impartial, partial mercy. Like grace is like, it reminds me of like a fruit. It's like a grape, or a blueberry. It's like the most antioxidant rich spiritual fruit one could have the pleasantry of consuming. So with Hannah being a palindrome, with grace being spelt the same way forward as it is backward, I think that's so idealistic of grace, of mercy. It's so idealistic of dying to live. She was so desperate to be a mother. She was dying to be a mother. That was her life. She knew that was her purpose. She had a womb, but it wasn't functioning. It wasn't filled. It wasn't fostering whatever potential that it could. What's your womb? What aren't you fostering? What has left you empty? And who is provoking you? Because if they are provoking you, they probably got something that you don't. But the thing about it is, what you do have is what they can't see. That's what Hannah had. See, Hannah's spirit was bigger than Penninah's teasing. Hannah's tenacity, her faith, was bigger than any joke that fell out of Penninah's mouth. Hannah's restraint, her self-control, her discipline for not beating Penninah's behind and throwing her down the temple steps was bigger. She was so desperate. She was dying enough to live on. The deterrence of hate requires grace. Hannah gave Penninah grace. I see why her name is Grace, because now that I think about it, Hannah should have thrown hands with Penninah. If somebody, year after year, you talking about my sickness, you're talking about my weak spot, and you're laid up with my husband, nah, like, it don't make no sense why Hannah did not kill this one. So I see now she showed Penninah grace. And the message that I gave in Italy was stop hating, because Penninah, all those years she was talking crap about Hannah, should have been helping her. And Hannah shouldn't have been, no, regardless of should or would, Hannah could have been. I wonder if Hannah's womb would have opened up had she started helping Penninah way years before, when Penninah had her first child, rather than resenting her. The potential for greatness in that desperation, resisting that dying feeling, delving into that death, that corpse emotionally, but actually fighting against it and raging against it and responding rather than reacting with depression and isolation and lashing out at your significant other. Actually participating and joining that person. If you can't beat them, join them type thing. But I think that would have unlocked some potential. And I think for me, staying sober, staying in production, keeping the wheels turning, hitting the gym, continuing to lose weight, it's not all easy and it's challenging. And I could say I'm not where I want to be. Oh, I have so much further to go. I'm not getting the results I want, or it's not coming as fast as it used to, and give up. But I'm so desperate to be successful in this in a full holistic sense. I can't just get sober and not get fit. I can't just get fit and not get spiritual. I can't just get spiritual and not develop a relationship with God. All of this has to come full circle. Palindrome, the same way forwards as it is backwards. When you get desperate enough to matter, you'll start praying like you're drunk. You'll get belligerent in your faith and in your practice. Leave it all to your ritual. It's okay to have a ritual. Some people are a little freaked out by rituals. I think they are vital and crucial instruments that connect us from this physical world to the metaphysical. Love yourself and gain momentum in that love. Love is a constant action. Love is a sacrifice. Gain momentum in that direction. Keep the momentum going forward despite the friction. Let the inertia find a groove in your spirit to love. Even when you face opposition, even when you feel like dying, even when that void, that hollow place is where the higher power, your light, the water of life springs out of. It always comes from a hollow spot. It always flows out of a hollow spot. And like when I talked about going to work with reverence, something that came to light listening to Stephen Furtick, Pastor Stephen Furtick, I think they're in Charlotte, Elevation Church. One of the messages on their podcast, 2017, talking about coming to church full. Like, we come to church empty, but if we came to church full, we won't leave disappointed. You go to somebody's house hungry, you've never had their cooking, or you've had their cooking, and that night they make salad when you could eat a whole pan full of pasta. You leave hungry. You leave disappointed. But if you go in having ate before, full, and not some high expectation, some grandeur, delusion of what might happen in the future that we have no idea because we're not in the future yet, you go in full, you leave out full. You have enough to give others. You're not just about to boil over with emotion. And I really appreciate that because, like I've said before, I don't think the church is in a building. I think the church is in each and every one of us. It's that light and it's drawing it out. So if I'm going to God constantly ungrateful, constantly in lack, and not recognizing that I am full when I want to be spiritually, because really, if I can't handle the little that I do have, what am I going to do with a lot? And I have a lot right now. And it's little in regards to mental and spiritual satisfaction. Monetary gain is so minimal. It's so subjective. It's so minuscule in regards to a spiritual effect. Money does not make you feel better. I'm going to tell you, money, well, it can't. It can make you feel better. It doesn't make me feel better. It offers an idea of relief, but it comes with a great responsibility. Heavy is the head that lays the crown. Heavy is the head.
Hey guys, this is just a friendly reminder to stop by my website, www.erhunter.live. That's erhunter.live. Drop me a line. You can find my books there, God Sent Dog and Chasing God Alcoholically, both of which are available on Amazon, Kindle Unlimited. They are free. You can find me on Patreon and support the show, www.patreon.com/erhunter. As you all know, extra resources that help is well into development, and I appreciate every listen, every follow, every like. I couldn't do it without you. I'm here because of you, for you, and ultimately, we're going to impact the world, and I truly believe that. Lofty goals for a little old guy like me, but we can do it together. I appreciate you guys all across the world, Switzerland, the Netherlands, France, Germany, the UK. Wow, I'm just flabbergasted. Australia, Alaska, Texas, Arizona. I see you, California, down to Florida, up to New York, Maine. The show's growing, and so am I, and I'm stoked you're joining me for this. So let's dive right back in to Dying to Live, as I describe my process of metanoia, a transformation in living. And stay tuned. At the end of the show, I'm going to delve into intermittent fasting, diet, weight loss, and how killing my cravings is giving life and birth to a whole new me. Man, this is awesome. This is great. I'd love to hear from you. Support the show, buy the books. Third one's on the way. And some really big stuff is on the horizon. I truly believe that. Some doors have opened. I've made some steps, and I'm trusting God that He's got my back. He's walking through that door with me. And so are you. So let's do this. All right, back to the show. The Rhetorical Sake, episode 20. We here, y'all. We up in it, baby. Ciao.
When I was in Italy, 2010, prior to leaving in 2009, there was a devastating earthquake in the town known as Aquila, Aquila. And if you remember that hearing about it, there's a story of a student there, and she studied construction, architecture, and sediment, and she realized that most of the structures in that town were built out of a sediment that would just implode should an earthquake, the foundation shift, if the ground were to shake. She got out of there, and shortly thereafter, there was a devastating earthquake, and a lot of people she knew and warned died due to those conditions. We went down there, about a group of 20 of us, to volunteer, and there was a tent, like this nonprofit organization set up shelters, and lots, and so about like 12 or 10 to a tent each, and these rows of these big tents, and we ate together, and it was just a really humbling experience, and it was an opportunity to be of service. And where we focused during the day was a convent that had suffered some damage. They had some losses to the frescoes that were painted all and throughout, but one that survived untouched was that of Mary, the mother of Jesus, arriving to her aunt or cousin's house, Elizabeth. And Elizabeth was pregnant with John the Baptist. And as it reads in the Bible, when Mary's voice met Elizabeth's ears, I guess it stirred something in John, because Elizabeth was sitting up in her house thinking that the child inside of her, the baby, the infant, the fetus, the life inside of her was non-existent, that she was growing a corpse in her old age, whereas Mary shows up unannounced in her youth, pregnant by God, a virgin, yet pregnant. And when Mary's voice is heard, John leaps in Elizabeth's womb. And so this Renaissance fresco, despite all the damage that went on around it, that one stayed intact, and it was truly a miracle, and truly is one to be held to this day. I relate so much to this scene with Mary approaching Elizabeth's door and John leaping in Elizabeth's womb. This passion, this idea, this investment, this gift that was given her, it was still. It seemed empty. It seemed void. It seemed like a tease. I relate because it's taken years to write these scripts and books. And once I had an opportunity to get those in the hands of the people that can make things happen, that could open some doors for me, that can get me signed, that could greenlight my projects, that seemed to fall through my fingers. It seemed like everything kind of fell through, like something solid turned into liquid, and I was left with a puddle on the floor, just scraps of ideas and a contract or a deal that could have been, or should have been, or would have been. But I'm glad and I understand now. That Bible verse, by the way, is in Luke. It's Luke 1, verse 41. The Jubilee Bible of 2000 edition reads, "And it came to pass that when Elizabeth heard the salutation of Mary, the babe leaped in her womb, and Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit." That's a two-parter. That's like a double tap. The baby leaps, and then you get filled with the Holy Spirit. So I relate to that because I feel like my baby is leapt. Because these scripts that are registered as original ideas, concepts, pilots, features with the Writers Guild are not void of potential. And that came to light recently. And I'm stoked about it. Things are in motion. And even if I get a no, even if they pass, I tried. And it ignited something in me. It reminded me not to shut the door on the decade of writing, on all those qualifications, on all those certified scripts, on those approved original ideas that I've gotten great feedback on before. I've been holding on to them, incubating them, and they just leapt. What I thought was dead is actually alive. And what brought it to life was the dying of my doubt, the dying of my lack of confidence, the expiration of insecurity. Now, if y'all jump back to episode 17, you understand I'm insecure, E-N. I don't have any worries. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't feel good, but in my frontal cortex in the front of my mind, I'm not compulsively thinking negatively. I'm not even dwelling on it. That conversation's been had. Whatever opportunity is going to be, is going to be. I can't sit here and future trip or delve on, I didn't pitch it correctly in the past because I'm going to miss right now. And I love that Mary's salutation brought Elizabeth into right now. Maybe being filled with the Holy Spirit is actually realizing the moment, is breaking into that conscious understanding of presence, of life. Sometimes God sends someone that is naturally close to you from afar, and that ignites something in us. It initiates a process. It sparks a light. We thought the dream died. We thought the years and years of writing, of investing, of working, of training, of studying were for nothing. My scripts were hollow carcasses grown and nourished, but to no avail. But God, but life, but hope, but a glimmer, but a spark just set what I thought were ashes to light. And it's burning blue, baby. It's the hottest of the hot. I hope it's burning a blue I've never seen before. I don't even know how to describe it. It's that phantasmagoria type stuff. Y'all know what I'm saying. My sakers. So it's funny because John the Baptist and Jesus, like Moses, Abraham, and even kids right now to this day in the Middle East, are born into a world under siege. Their community is under siege, and they didn't have any say in it. They don't have a say in it. They are born into war, born into being traumatized. It's sad, but it's also inspiring, because if that little spark, if that little flame, if that little idea, if that little egg fertilized can grow and be birthed and be strong enough to withstand the blasts, to withstand the shell shock, to withstand the screams, to withstand the grief, to endure and let that weakness peel off and die off like layers of an onion, it might start at the core, because you got me deep. You touched my core. That was a sensitive spot. You hit a nerve. You struck a nerve there. But the more I grow, the more I develop, the more I mature, this light that's inside of me, this divinity, this hope, this grace, this mercy I've been shown, it's stretching out. It's stretching out that weakness beyond its capacity, and that weakness is tearing. You're breaking open. You're releasing. Every little step forward, every meditation, every prayer, every smile, every act of generosity. It's really a beautiful, beautiful trend. The former me, my past, in its dying, in its expiration, has given life to the latter me. And when we have this innocence that's born into a situation of strife, because you could have a great idea, you could have a great script, you could have a great business plan, but your situation, your environment may not be suitable for what's inside of you, for that passion. And that's one thing I'm really grateful for the Elevation Church podcast, Stephen Furtick mentions, is that you could be in a certain frame of mind at a different season in your life. God help me say that how you revealed it to me. You could be at a different season in your life than your life is. You could be in a different season mentally than you are environmental-wise, situation-wise. And I think that is what I'm learning even through writing, through staying positive, through abstaining from alcohol, through losing weight, through intermittent fasting, practicing self-discipline, practicing. That's what I'm learning through practicing. Everything, every step I take, every decision I make is a constant practice. And letting it be a practice rather than, the final show, the great finale every day, I'm able to forgive myself, and a lot of pressure has been relieved. A lot of pressure has been relieved from me. And I want that for those that haven't had that opportunity. That's why I do what I do, because I do believe in global peace. I do believe in serenity, and I think it's available to all. I think that we can unify. We might be nearing an end of division, a season of division, of disharmony, of chaos, of hate and bigotry and discrimination and fear. All that is encapsulated in a bubble of fear. And I think that bubble is bursting with these new kids and older people meeting us millennials in the middle on a spiritual awakening. We are mentally joining hands. That's what podcasts do. That's what books do. They bind us together through various mediums via expression, human expression. And it's what sets us apart from the animal kingdom. It's what binds us together. And for me, it's proof of God. And despite every difference that we have, everything that makes me different from you, it draws me closer to a higher power. That difference I might have seen as a challenge, as a disadvantage upon being born, upon maturing, upon coming of age, upon going through puberty, and I may have saw it as a disadvantage, but now I see it as favor, because my challenges, my difficulties are actually opportunities. And everything that I've failed, everything that I've created that hasn't taken flight yet is not for naught. Either the experience of creating it and having it is valuable enough to my pedigree that it was all worth it, or it's just in the incubator. It's just on hold. It's just getting better. It's just like a fine wine or cheese. It's aging. It's gaining experience. And now might be the time where the hour for my scripts, the hour for my next book is coming. It has come. But it really, I don't know. And I'm okay with that. Because, I mean, I took a break from doing this show just to go crank out a few hours at my part-time job. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with setting my pride aside and being a servant to people for $12 an hour, because that's what life is. And I get to practice being a nice guy. I get to practice putting my pride aside and just being a regular Joe. I really like the grind of honest work. It's trying with the chronic back pain and neck pain and not being able to afford the surgery that has been recommended to me. But it's only temporary. The hour for that surgery has not yet come. And that's all right. So I just keep on moving. But it doesn't always feel good. And I know I get sick of hearing people, pastors, religious people, gurus, people that have been sober for a very long time. It's like they make light of the feeling, and the feeling can totally derail a thought. A feeling can produce its own thought, and limbic-wise, on an autonomic scale, physically, can trigger a craving. So these triggers are going to come up, and I'm not saying I don't have them, and that's why I want to talk from where I'm at, because it hurts. It's like I feel like I'm spiritually exercising, like I'm doing arms and it's burning in my biceps, and yet I'm still curling. I'm still doing negatives even. I'm still trying to get to pull-ups and supersets. It can feel like that. And then you're looking around the gym and you're like, how come nobody else is struggling like me? Am I the only one that's feeling this pain? Or they're not even trying? It can feel like that. But really, you never know when the right one, someone that's always been there, might come back with some good news. And you could be the one preparing the way for the next, what? Who knows? Baby, great speaker, MLK, cure for cancer finder. Maybe they make cars, or like some type of spaceship, or find a new planet. Who knows? But if we don't try and we don't believe that there's a glimmer of hope and practice living as if everything's going to be okay, I'm worried we may never find out. These days, I can honestly say I am experiencing a firsthand account of metanoia. And I'm so grateful that a transformational change in my way of life is underway. I'm grateful to share a change resulting from repentance and spiritual awareness is currently unfolding before our eyes. And I invite you to experience that for yourself, because it's invaluable. It's definitively human. And I think it's a great way to develop a relationship with a higher power. I say what I say because of a faith, because of a practice, because of an idea. I have my personal first-hand accounts experiencing God. I can only do so much to impart those to others. But sometimes you just got to invite people to impart into themselves. So whatever doubt you might be experiencing within yourself, whatever fear, whatever injustice, wrong you think done you that's making you angry, I would invite you to let that thing die, to stop fueling it, and get ready to give birth to a new awareness, a new peace, serenity. Get ready to experience a more authentic self. Because if you want anger and resentment and bitterness to be your authentic self, to be a part of you, to be your shield, your mask, by all means. But I will not let my joy and my pursuit of happiness be deterred. I will not let my spirit die. I will not let my endeavors to be better and to help others expire. I am so dying to live. And I hope each and every one of us is too.
Stay tuned. In a moment, I'm going to explain to you how I'm killing my cravings and giving birth to weight loss. Intermittent fasting, keto, lifting, running. I'm going to break it down because I'm getting results and I can't wait to share it with you guys.
So people are starting to comment, folks are starting to notice that I am losing weight. So far, it's a solid 20 pounds, 21-ish, but today it's guaranteed I'm well over 20 pounds, so by ounces, so that's good. And I'm not checking my weight on a scale too often. A very good friend of mine that I trust and was formerly a gym owner, and he's got a body type I'm looking to build, let me know that, he recommends to his clients not to step on the scale more than once or twice a month. Because it can trip you out. It'll get in your head, the numbers. And when you're gaining muscle prior to burning fat, and those ratios can throw you off in your head. And they have done that to me. And so I'm grateful I'm not checking my weight so constantly, compulsively as I used to. And just letting the visual results, the physical results sink in. And I noticed that a lot of my rapid weight loss is done after a period of rest. So after about 48 hours of not exercising, not carbo loading, but enjoying carbohydrates, I go back to the scale and I'm pretty surprised that, during that time, even though I didn't hit the gym, but I had hit it consistently before that. So I'm like a Monday through Thursday kind of guy, or Monday through Wednesday, depending how the back feels. And it's not like I'm in there getting after. If you looked at me, you'd be like, this guy is ridiculous. And I get stuck on decline benches because of my back. Like, it goes out. Sometimes it feels like I'm getting electrocuted. My arms go numb. So everything is really low weight. I'm okay with having, I don't use a free straight barbell. I just utilize the machines or really light load bearing free weights. And I do a lot of repetitions to failure. I'm trying to get my muscles to tear and to the point where they need to repair themselves. So, and usually it's about 3 sets. So I might do flies with, 5 to 10 pounds. Now I'm up to like using 15 pounders to failure. Then I'll just jump back down to 10s. But when I started a couple of months ago, I was just using 5 pounders. And for me, focusing on my posture, focusing on the music or the podcast I was listening to, and just flapping my arms straight, keeping my shoulders back, that belly button tucked in back towards my spine, keeps me out of, is anyone looking at me? Is anyone laughing at me? This big guy using these small weights. Because I know a lot of people hesitate going to work out in public because of social anxiety. Forget that. Leave all that social anxiety at the door. Ain't nobody at the gym trying to be cute. I remember a good friend of mine, fraternity brother, he told me, dude, put on a baseball cap, put your head down, put on a hoodie, get in there. No excuses. And that stuck with me. And one other thing that has stuck with me, because now is usually the time where I hit a plateau. But I would have hit that plateau around 220. And I broke that because I changed things up over the last couple of months here. So, one trainer told me, you just got to keep going, because plateauing and just leveling off at a certain weight for a couple of weeks, it can be really frustrating, especially when you've already lost like a good 15 pounds but you're just like right there on the cusp and you're like, what am I doing? So at the beginning of the year, I amped up and I just stayed strict on the intermittent fasting. And when I broke the intermittent fasting, I would either binge eat, to be honest, on the weekends, like go out to eat, grab some Panda Express or something. I can't even stomach Panda Express anymore because of the clean eating I've been doing. And occasionally I would supplement, or that one meal of the night would most of the time be a salad. Easy to make and, green, plant-based. And I usually try to stick to extra virgin olive oil, balsamic, or some type of balsamic vinaigrette, organic, all natural, things like that. But sometimes, when you've been eating salad for a while, you got to treat yourself. So I'll bring home the little honey mustard packs or some ranch or something. I'll save those and mix them up with some grapeseed oil or avocado oil, or just even extra virgin olive oil, organic, and let that be my salad dressing. And I know some people are like, well, you might as well just have regular food if you're going to have rich dressing like that. But when you're doing the grind, you gotta, it's like the rats with the reward system psychology. Anybody 101? It's okay to treat yourself. You gotta find those little loopholes to remind your body you're doing a good job. So now I didn't start with fasting this time around. Once I jumped back up to 236 and size 36, moving up to a 37 waistline, and a XL shirt, like all my clothes, whereas I was a medium before the accident. You get hungry, you get tired, and I had to let that disappointment, that back pain, this idea that I'm going to let this injury hold me down, I had to let that idea die, and that gave life to a hope. And so I have to ignite that hope. I have to kindle that fire every morning when I get up, because the mornings are the most difficult part, because I've been laying still. And so it takes me a good hour and a half, 2 hours to really be mobile. I can walk around, things like that, but man, it hurts, dog. And like, I'm not trying to be hooked on no painkillers, so I'm trying to utilize turmeric, a lot of anti-inflammatory supplements, green tea, and just, getting after it, walking that dog, taking a nice little jog, throwing on a podcast that gets the blood flowing. And so I think a big part of this time around over the last 2 months was actually eating breakfast and weightlifting. So at the beginning of the year, I was fasting, intermittent fasting, like Monday through Wednesday, Monday through Thursday, just having one meal in the evenings, running, and then running before I had that meal. And I could get up to like 4-mile run, 5-mile run after like 2-3 months. But the progress I'm making now, having incorporated weights and lifting, is substantially more and substantially different. And so if you really want to activate and ignite weight loss, and you're like me and you really like the the relaxation of cardio, I can no longer avoid the gym. And it sucked doing it, and I knew I wasn't going to like it. I don't like doing arms. I don't like doing legs. But now it's gotten to the point where I like it. And it's weird. I didn't think I would like it. And it's like the days where I don't feel like working out, I don't feel like going on a run, and I just start to do it. Those are the days I have the best workout. Those are the days I have the best run, or I hear the best podcast or the best message, or I get some type of enlightenment or some revelation. I get to talk to God for a little bit. Sometimes I just turn off the headphones and pray and just meditate a little bit, zone out, and I get to spend time with my pup. I think that being happy, and even if it's forced at the beginning, because believe me, I've had to force myself to be happy over these last couple of months, is worth it. And I think being happy has a lot to do with weight loss. I should delve more into some research on that. So coming up on some future episodes of The Rhetorical Sake, I'm going to find some studies on maybe being in love, being happy, being joyous, and being healthy. Because obviously that sounds great, but what's the science behind it? In any case, I've been utilizing red light therapy, which is supposedly gets the cells, the fat tissue loosened up, and I do that before working out for about 12 minutes, and I do it, and usually 3 or 4 times a week, not too much, and sometimes I take a week off, and it seems like it's working. Like, I've been losing a gradual 3.2 pounds every week since the end of August, and that's just part of my program. It is just part of it, and it seems to be contributing. But obviously, the thought too that it could be a placebo effect, like it could be. Cold showers, cold plunges. So Ben Greenfield kind of qualified my interpretation of or understanding of cold contributing to better health, longevity, and that I had an experience with in Italy. They took us to these natural hot springs on the island of Ischia, and there were like 20 pools, like literal, like just like swimming pools, this beautiful place. And then these little hot tubs, but they were natural hot springs, and they would be like super hot, some of them, and the water would be super cold. And they'd have instructions at each pool, at each section, saying, okay, you get in the hot tub for 2 minutes, and then you cold plunge for 3 minutes. And you would work your way around this park and different parts of your body, things like that. There are different setups. There was this sauna inside of a cave, the hottest sauna I've ever been in, and the most mentally challenging because it is packed and you're literally sitting inside of a cave that is spewing hot steam. And like, only thing moderating the steam is the world, the planet. So it was, yeah. But anywho, Ben Greenfield, I'm going to list his article on burning fat with cold in the show notes. But there's some different benefits and why I like to jump in my pool. Like just before recording the second half of this, I threw my dog in there too. He's probably pissed at me. It's not that cold, but he needed to get a quick bath, and I like that chlorine, gets all that gunk off of him, whatever. But it's cold to stay in. So it's probably like 50 something degrees. And I'm not abusing my dog. He needed to get that energy out. But I stay in and I floated for a little bit, and I like floating because it lets my spine stretch out. And like a coworker at work today, she was like, yeah, when you float, it lets all your bones go back and your muscles go back to where they belong for a little bit. That place takes that pressure off. Ben Greenfield, the science behind it, talks about the BAT activation, so the brown adipose tissue. And that tissue fuels like heat generation, and so the production of heat in not just fat, but also skeletal muscle is triggered by cold plunges, cold showers, just immersing yourself into colder temperatures. And he notes that adenopectin activation is a hormone released during cold exposure that breaks down fat and shuttles glucose into muscles, which can lower blood sugar. This not only has an anabolic muscle repair effect, but can also enhance recovery. Interestingly, low adiponectin levels have been associated with obesity, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. So if you're struggling with weight loss, that hormone, adenopectin, might be to blame. But a nice cold shower, cold plunge could trigger that and start getting you on the up and up. I'm not a doctor, nor am I a physical therapist. I'm just a beautiful multi-ethnic man that occasionally likes to do experiments. Okay, so enhanced immune system. Greenfield lists cold therapy has been proven to enhance the immune system, primarily by increasing levels of immune system cells that help fight disease and infection. It increased cell longevity. mTOR is a protein found in humans. Perhaps you've heard that worms, fruit flies, and mice live longer than when exposed to caloric restriction, and it is hypothesized that this is caused by downregulation of the mTOR pathway. Inhibitor of the mTOR pathway can bring about cell autophagy, which is basically how your body cleans out metabolic junk within the cells. This has all Ben Greenfield. This is not me. I'm reading from his website. And this is the method via when cells may live longer and healthier lives. Cold exposure has an effect on cellular longevity by similar mTOR pathways as caloric restriction and intermittent fasting. Basically, you can think of it as a combination of simultaneously increasing your cells' hardiness and health. Cold exposure can cause blood glucose to be burned rapidly as fuel, so higher metabolism and lower blood sugar. When the human metabolism of a human, that brown fat we were talking, that brown adipose tissue is studied using a combination of positron emission tomography, PET, combined with computed tomography, CT, glucose uptake has been observed to increase 12-fold in the brown adipose tissue by exposure to cold temperatures, along with a significant increase in metabolism and energy expenditure. So, by killing off your heat, you give life to a heat source. By killing off your external heat, you give life to your internal source of heat and light and energy. That's working for me, and it's firming up my body. So in addition to really laying it out at the gym for at least 45 minutes, 4 times a week, doing runs probably 3 times a week. I'm trying to get it up because there's a 5K on Saturday. We'll see. The cold plunges, and then the intermittent fasting, which I'm doing a lot less of now because I'm lifting more. But I notice, even though I was having like 2 meals a day, the breakfast and then a salad for dinner, I kind of just naturally got back into the swing of fasting, especially with doing the part-time job thing or just being busy throughout the week with doctor's appointments, taking the dog out, getting things squared away with the show and the book. Just grab my cup of joe and start doing what I got to do that day. And at the time it's noon, I'm like, okay, I've been fasting for this long. Might as well continue it. Because I can go all day. I got enough meat on my bones. And it works for me. And I actually feel more energized when I'm hungry, mentally. So go figure. I will say my coworkers probably suffer. And maybe you guys do too, because the glycogen stores headed to my brain aren't as readily available. I have to pry them out of fat. But the dying off of just indulgence is giving life to this fat inside of me. It's putting to use what's been stored up. And that's what's so beautiful about it. And I'm glad I'm not as vain as I used to be, but I know I'm vain. I think there's a degree of human narcissism that comes with loving yourself. And for me, that vanity is just stapled in the fact that God, my higher power, the universe, let me have this meat sack. And I'm cool with that. I'm really grateful for it. And I got to take care of it. And so that's what I'm here to do. And if maybe I can help and encourage you to do the same, always remember, you just got to start somewhere. If that's what you want, if you want those results, if you want that business, if you want that body, you just got to start somewhere. If you want to be better, the best way to critique bad is to practice the better. And I got that from Emmett Fox, and I don't know where he got that from, but that is not my quote. In any case, what is my quote today is, I love you. And I hope that if duty calls, you experience a state of metanoia just like me. Check me out on Instagram at The Rhetorical Sake. I'm also on Twitter, sake_podcasts, erhunter.live, or drop me a line and email me, earth, ERTH, at erhunter.live. Gods and Dog, Chasing God Alcoholically. Both my books available on Amazon, and stay tuned for so much more. And just a side note, I don't want anyone to die. I know the title of this message is Dying to Live. I want you to live, and that's a metaphysical dying, a mental dying of doubt and resentment and shame, and a birthing of love and honor and satisfaction in and throughout your life. Metanoia, a genuine transformation. Life's so good today. It's sweet. It's rich. If you're into Halloween, check out Straight Shook, my series, and stay tuned for so much more. All right, I'm Audi 3000. It's Sunday. The Affair is on, y'all. Mara Tierney, Noah and Helen, Emmy, Oscar. I saw that episode last night when it dropped. Oh my God. Okay, The Affair, Succession, that season's over. How to Be a God in Central Florida, that season's over. Oh, Watchmen, Regina King. Don't play with me. I'm dying to live for these shows. The devil is a lie. All right, I'm out. Have a good one. Bye.